Dr. Shahnoz, my last question is, and I'm so excited, by the way, that we're going to be touching all of these points in depth with your knowledge and your wisdom and your experience. And that is a hormone that fascinates me, and it's cortisol, and what cortisol can do if we get cortisol poisoning, the inflammation that it can provoke, the consequences of cortisol poisoning, which unfortunately we are in this phase of life where most of us are constantly go under high levels of stress. So would you please explain a little bit more about
Yes.
what can we do and what happens in the body when we have cortisol poisoning?
It's important to know what happens, and then you will decide what to do. So what happens in the body, cortisol, and I like how you said poisoning, because cortisol itself is not a bad hormone. We need cortisol. Cortisol is important for us to, when we wake up because of cortisol. Okay, it makes you wake up, it makes you open your eyes, it makes you to go and want to do things. So that's cortisol, and gives you energy. But there's something happens when we have overproduction of cortisol. And why is that? It happens, like you mentioned, inflammation, right? So when we have this either physical stress, or when we have this physical, mental, emotional, whatever stress,
Anxiety, right?
Yeah, sleep deprivation, whatever it is, it's a stress. That stress creates oxidative stress in the cell. Again, we're going back into the process. What is happening in the cell? In the cell, you start producing more waste material and collection of that waste material in the cell. And the more waste material in the cell you have, the more inflamed and unhappy that cell looks. And that's what we call inflammation. And the longer the cell is in that inflammatory state, that lifespan of the cell is
going to be shortened, of course.
And cell gets destroyed. And this is what happens. Cortisol increases your cholesterol. How? Because when you have cortisol, you create this oxidative stress. The stress destroys the cell, and the cell wall consists of good cholesterol. But then when it gets destroyed, the breeze of that cell wall float around. We call it bad cholesterol. You see? And then again, bad cholesterol will put you on statins, which again, in some cases, maybe there's a place for that, but not for everyone. You see? So again, it comes with the genetics. They say if you have high cholesterol, you can die from heart attack. Is it really? So going back to genetics, there are 3 types of genes. And the first gene is responsible for heart attack. There are 3 types of genes that are responsible for heart attack. The first one is responsible for inflammation, oxidative stress in the endothelial cells of the coronary vessels. That's one gene. The second gene is responsible for plaque formation. And the third one is responsible for blood clotting formation. So the heart attack can happen from if you have inflammation in the coronary vessels and they create coronary spasm and coronary plaque or whatever it is, and then you die, or coronary plaque that everybody knows about, or it could be a blood clot, just clogs the vessel and you have a heart attack. So then if you carrying the gene that is responsible for endothelial inflammation and you go on statins, you're not really helping yourself. That's why it's important to know the process and the genetics, what is happening in the cell. So cortisol, it basically, the more inflammation you have, the more cortisol you start producing because it's a stress. Now this is stress hormone, it's a response, and it becomes vicious cycle. And now you're producing more cortisol, and then more oxidative stress, more inflammation, and just keep going. So how to break this vicious cycle? We're so used to, if you have this problem, take this vitamin, take this herb. For cortisol, for adrenals, you have to do a little more. Just taking supplements is not enough. Things like cortisol decreasing activities like yoga, breath work, meditation, acupuncture, tai chi, cold plunges, cryotherapies, all these things, massages, this is also need to be incorporated in your life, day-to-day life. You see? And by the way, I'm going back again to genetics. In your genetics, there is a genetic predispositions to specific disorders of cortisol production. And for example, in my thing, I have a problem with BDNF hormone production that also can affect production of cortisol. If I don't have enough of BDNF, I produce more cortisol to compensate.
Can
And
you
as
explain what that is, BDNF?
BDNF is the hormone that we produce in our brain, and it usually happens if you sweat. The best way to produce it is when you sweat, when you exercise, not just doing regular yoga, but let's say hot yoga, not just like walking, but running when you
Strength
really
training and
training, not just just laying down in the sun, but going in the sauna, infrared sauna, and sweat really nicely. This is when I help my genetics told me that this is going to be the best thing. So my sauna is my how do you call it? Therapy. Okay.
Right.
This is my
For you. Right.
Exactly. It's good for everybody, but I could, some people could do sauna or do cold plunges or something else. I have to have my sauna. I have to have my sweating according to my genetics. That's why it's important to know what you consist of. So you would know which buttons to push or not to push.
I love that. I love that.